Hello and welcome to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. I'm your host, Braiden Belnap, and I'm a human just like you, striving to build a dream life, all while I stay true to myself. But what if you're in a position of wanting to reach the next level of success, whether that's with you as an individual, a relationship, in a sport, or business? You're just not sure exactly what steps to take. That's exactly why we have Hugh Smith joining us today, because he's done that all. He's been on the national team for the Olympic team in Canada, and he's taken his level of success from looking at possibly not even getting on the team to getting on the team through consistency, getting in the right communities, and just pure dedication. That in mind, welcome to the show, Hugh.
Thank you. I'm excited. This is nice. It's nice. I was just reading your story, your book on the way, about to launch. That's exciting. I was reading some of that. So thanks for sharing. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's crazy. We met 3-ish months ago, Mark McCormack's event.
Yeah.
And now we're here.
Got a free hat. Thanks, Mark McCormack. That hat, I like that hat. I took it to Zion's.
Yeah.
Hikes with it. It's got some nice mesh on it. Just a good hat.
Absolutely. And then you joined We Are the They.
Yeah. So that was probably like my second or third event that I've gone to We Are the They. I was watching kind of the social media, following Jimmy for a while. And then after that, I joined and was lucky and blessed to be able to join the Leadership Group 5, which has been transformational so far. Yeah.
Absolutely. So to jump into things, you're obviously a gymnast. So what inspired you to be a gymnast?
Yeah, well, I was just one of those kids that just had so much energy and would be climbing up the walls. My mom tells me stories that I'm like on top of the fridge, like just jumping off of the fridge, jumping down like this flight of stairs in our home and doing flips on the bed. And I have videos of me, I'm like 3 years old, trying to do a flip, like landing directly on my head. Just like I've coached now for 25 years and I know 3-year-olds and to see what I was doing back then, just like huge jumps on the bed and then just going for a flip. I'm like, dang, what was I thinking? Yeah. So we lived close to a gym club in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia, which is a small town, 30,000 people. And we lived close there. My dad was like, gymnastics? Like, no. And this was in the 80s, right? Like gymnastics is not really, a thing for boys, right? He's like, my son's going to play hockey because he grew up playing hockey. So,
and you're from Canada, so I assume that's a big thing down there.
Yeah, it's hard to escape hockey there. Everyone plays hockey. My dad tells me stories. He would come home from school, throw the bag, go out and skate till it got dark. And so I did hockey too, and it just kind of wasn't really something that I just loved. 7 a.m. Saturday mornings, freezing cold, Canadian winters, getting on all the gear. And I was a short little guy, so putting on all that, heavy, oversized gear for me. I'm just like skating, my helmet's coming down, can't even see where I'm going. Just cold. I didn't like the cold. So the tight skates, you got to tighten those things so tight. But I'm grateful for the experience, definitely. And then just gymnastics kind of just seemed to be my thing. I just kept with it and started to learn some cool things, Not everyone can go around doing flips, especially like kids, right? So I was like, I felt good about that.
Sure.
Just being able to kind of show off and, show off for the girls and just handstands everywhere. And, that's kind of how I started out. My mom put me in it and just kept going.
Talent only gets you so far, but you clearly had a talent and then you worked hard at it. And that's why you were able to be part of the Canadian team.
Yeah.
Is that the right way to say it?
Canadian the Canadian national team. So I was part of the Team Canada for probably a total of 15 years or so in total. And looking back, I really looking back and learning about myself, I really feel that everything that I did was exactly what it needed to be, to completely give up their life, no family time, no vacations, no, nothing, right? And their entire purpose is their sport. And although I did train very hard and very long and consistently train for years, I didn't have that all in mentality, that like competitive, super competitive, like I'm not doing anything else but gymnastics. I didn't really have that. I enjoyed the family vacations. I enjoyed taking time off and doing other things that I love to do. And so in a way, it kind of kept me from maybe reaching a higher level, I guess, in my sport, or being better. But it also, I was being me. I was doing me. I was doing things that were important to me. And so looking back at it, I really understand kind of everything now. And so it worked out, I think, exactly how it needed to.
Absolutely. You know, the richest people have health, wealth, love, and freedom, right?
Yeah.
If we just drop everything and we miss out on the love and the freedom and the lifestyle, I mean, what's the real, as far as I'm concerned, what's the real point? And who knows, maybe somebody worked really hard, like Michael Phillips. That guy is phenomenal.
Right.
And he sacrificed, and now I'm sure he still has the health, obviously. Mm-hmm. He has a wealth. Yeah. And maybe he has, I don't follow him necessarily, but I'm sure he has love at some point, at some level now.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has the freedom. But
yeah, and I guess every sacrifice, those are personal. For me, things like family time and things like that were very important, and it really wasn't something that I was really willing to sacrifice, completely, just for a sport. I loved my time competing. I loved the training, everything. But at the end of the day, it's a game. It's a sport. It's not life. There are other more meaningful things in life, like, the family relationships and things like that. So, but it did teach me an incredible amount, for sure.
And I agree with that. And it's just, life's a journey, right? Why not enjoy the now and the future? And like you say, there's so many important things in life.
Oh, yeah.
So it begs the question, when was the moment that you said, I'm going to be an Olympian? That's my goal. I'm going to be an Olympian. No other questions. That's what I'm going to do.
I think there's been a couple moments like that throughout my career. One, when I was 8 years old. In Canada, you compete at the age of 8. That's when you first compete. Here, it's 6. They get them going way early. And that's partly why US is, good at gymnastics, is ahead or better than Canada at gymnastics. I was 8 years old. I had my first competition. I didn't know what to expect. And in gymnastics, there are 6 events, all the different events. And in the award ceremonies, I got 5 gold medals. So I won 5 events, and then I won the all around. So I got like 6 gold medals. I'm just like blown away. Wow, this is okay. I'm kind of good at this, I guess. This is fun. I like it. And so I think that was a moment when I kind of was like a little click moment. I'm like, okay, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep going. And I remember I had this like fake leather, remember those jackets with like the leather sleeves, and then the like in school, the school jocks have them for the teams and things like that. It's like the white leather, and then the rest of it, it's like, I don't know, like some sort of material.
I have no idea. No,
you probably know exactly what, but see it.
If I saw it, I think that.
Imagine like this, like football jock in high school wearing like the jacket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I had one of those jackets, but it said like Canada on the back, and it was just something my parents got probably from Walmart or something. I don't know, but it's like I wore that, and I just like kind of wore that and thought about competing for Team Canada. And the jacket wasn't part of the Team Canada, but it was just wearing it kind of got me into that mindset and looking toward the future goals and kind of just, like manifesting it, just putting it out there.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, true manifestation, if anybody cares to know, is when you actually get there and you touch it, you feel it. It's like you want to drive that car, go test drive it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to like smell it. You got to feel it. You got to feel what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you don't know what it feels like, psychology 101, thoughts create emotions, emotions create behaviors, behaviors create results.
Right.
If you don't know what it feels like, usually the behaviors aren't necessarily going to follow, which means you're not going to get the result.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, for sure.
So I can't assume it was all, I'm going to assume it wasn't always rainbows and unicorns for you.
Oh man, there's so many up and downs as an athlete's life, you know. There was many times I wanted to quit, for sure. I remember I was probably in second grade, I think, and we would get a ride to the gym with this other guy from my school. I think he was in like third grade, and so his mom would pick us up from school, take us to the gym. I remember one day I did not want to go to practice. I don't know why, I can't remember. I just did not want to. So I asked the teacher to leave early, leave school early, like 5 minutes early. And I started running home so that, you know, she wouldn't take me to the gym. And I remember like watching her car like leave the parking lot of the school. I'm like hiding behind like a mailbox or something. I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym today. And and yeah, there was a lot of moments like that. And then later on in my career, I was about 15. Things were going well. I was on the Canadian national team by then, and my parents got divorced around that area, and I just I knew I didn't want to quit completely because I had put so much work into it and I loved it, but I just needed some kind of change. So I moved cities where I was living. I was living from Nova Scotia. I moved to Ontario, Canada, and lived in the country's capital of Ottawa. And I had grandparents there and I had some uncles there, and I moved there with them and trained for 1 year in Ottawa with a new coach, with new teammates. And that year just turned things around for me again. It kind of gave me that spark again, like, okay, let's keep going, you know. And I think that's totally normal for athletes or anyone that's doing something for a long time. It becomes so competitive, so repetitive. It's same thing. And it's hard to see, you know, the results, especially with gymnastics. Gymnastics is a very slow, it's like, imagine filling up a pool one drop at a time, you know. That's the sport of gymnastics, literally. It's like one drop, one drop, one drop. And it's tough. So yeah, that changed things for me for a year. I had a great coach and great teammates. One of those teammates actually came to visit here in Utah with his wife there, like last month. We went to Zion's. So creating those, you know, lifelong friendships with my teammates. But yeah, there's ups and downs for sure.
Was there any time that you questioned your ability to be on the Olympian team? Like, were you ever be like, am I good enough? Am I actually going to make this happen?
So yeah, when I was 19, I had to face a big decision, probably like one of the biggest decisions I've had to face, and that was serve an LDS mission for the church, for the church that I'm a part of, the Latter-day Saint Church, to serve a 2-year mission, you know, volunteer, or continue on the path, you know, the Team Canada and the Olympics. And two guys that I had been pretty close with, they went on to compete in the 2004 Olympics in Athens. And I remember I had always wanted to do the mission, but I thought I'm going to do it when I retire from gymnastics. But then I just kind of started to see how that road or that life kind of would end up, and it was a little bit scary in the sense that it was kind of taking me a little bit away from some of my core values and principles, you know, with faith and what I believed in. So I kind of was like, no, I need to go now. And I told my coach, and he's like, well, if you go on a mission, that's a great thing. But the chances of you getting back onto the national team after 2 years of taking it off completely, like, this sport is too hard. You know, you can't, that's probably not possible. And so I think he knew me well enough to tell me those things to motivate me. So I'm like, okay, his name was Tak, and a Japanese guy. I'm like, all right, Tak. So I went on my mission. I served 2 years in Mexico City. It was the best 2 years of my life. And that's another story. But came back overweight, you know. In Mexico, you're always eating. Always.
Absolutely.
Right? You go to someone's house, either they're about to eat and you got to wait and you eat with them, or they just ate and you eat their leftovers, or you get there and they're eating. So everyone's so welcoming in Mexico, and you're always eating. So I came back 200 pounds, like almost 200 pounds, and just very heavy, definitely not the gymnast body that you would think. And my coach was like, oh, geez. You want to come and play around in the gym, like just have fun? That's fine. But to get back on the national team, like, it's not going to happen. And then so from then on, for 10 months, I ran to the gym every single day, about 10, 11 kilometers, which is like 5 miles, trained 4 or 5 hours, and then ran home in the winter as well, Canadian winter. And I did that for 10 months, but there was moments in that time when I definitely had doubts. There was some serious doubt, like, what am I doing? Like, I don't have any money right now because like all my effort is going back into like training. So like I can work very minimal. My family had moved to Utah when I left for my mission. They moved from Canada to Utah. So I was basically alone in Canada, just had my coach and he was very supportive, but I'm just like one day running across this bridge from the city where my club was, where I trained, to the city I lived in. It's like Halifax and Dartmouth, and there's this bridge, and I'm running across the bridge. It's like, I don't know, middle of winter, and I'm freezing. There's like snow, hail coming down. I'm like, everything's wet. I'm like, what am I doing, Hugh? Like, can you do this? Can you actually do this? And I couldn't stop because I would freeze, right? I was so tired, but I couldn't stop because I would get even more cold. And I just had to keep going one step at a time. And I just kind of basically just kept that mentality of one step. And, I made it home. But yeah, there was definitely some moments of serious doubt and questioning, but it always came back to love. It always came back to, this is something that I love genuinely. And so, that kind of was the driving force and the motivation of doing something, that many people doubted and things like that. So I wanted to kind of prove to myself and prove, I guess, to other people that, it can be done. And I think to this day, I don't know if there's any other gymnast who has gone on a mission like 2 years, who have left the sport and has come back to like make it to their national team or compete at a high level like I have. So yeah, there's nothing I know of. So I'm actually writing a book about that and halfway there. So I'll watch out for that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, people, you transform for one of two reasons, right? Great pain or great pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
There's not ever like, oh, I'm comfortable, so I'm going to change. No, it takes pain, or it takes like absolutely like an immense amount of pleasure. That's why people will transform when they have kids or when they get married or things of that nature, right? My question is, what was on the other side of all that work? Like, what was that pleasure for you?
Yeah, that is kind of definitely always kind of the driving force of any change, like you said. I think thinking about my family, my parents, who had put so much into me. My siblings always say that like I got all the family's money, like for sports. My siblings, like they didn't do anything. And I looking back now, I feel bad. I don't know if they didn't want to do anything or my parents spent all the money on my gymnastics, because it was true. Like growing up, it's an expensive thing to be traveling when you're younger. The parents and the family are responsible for everything, right? And I remember going home, bringing my dad like another form that says a new competition. Okay, we're going traveling across the country, another $1,500, right? And my dad was always, at first, he's like, we don't have the money, but I never missed one competition. So just grateful for my parents, and I wanted to kind of just give back to them and show that like what they did to sacrifice, I'm going to give it back by accomplishing something, And so there was that. There was also just gymnastics has always been something that I truly loved and was good at. And so there was kind of just that self motivation and belief in myself to do something. And yeah, I guess basically just like wanting to feel accomplished and feel like, I've always wanted to push myself to do better. And that, I guess that was how I was going to be better in that moment of my life.
I love that. So my next question, obviously you've accomplished an immense amount of accomplishments in life, and it's something to be extremely proud about.
Thank you.
I can only imagine your parents are proud of you. I'm sure they've told you that plenty of times.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they were great supporters for sure.
So you have tools down here. Like we always have to be overcoming. Like we're human. Like even though you've had great accomplishments,
We are so human.
like we always have to overcome those negative thoughts, those emotions, those toxic habits that we want to break, but accidentally today we put our hand in the cookie jar once again. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
How they have in the past, because I'm actually curious how you kept going through the time that you were 200 pounds overweight and wanted to make it back on the national team, but also in the present moment, because you're now, you're Hugh still. You're Hugh then, you're Hugh now. How do you consistently overcome and keep pushing forward?
Yeah. It's funny because my whole life, my family has told me that I have really bad ADD and never got diagnosed, never took anything for it until a few years ago, I got diagnosed and started taking some medication for it to help me with it. But it's really, really something that I'm really learning about this is that it's incredible what we're capable of. So right now I have such a hard time focusing on one task, doing one thing, because my mind is like constantly in all these different ideas, things I want to do, now that I'm not training and now that I'm not a gymnast and now that my life is not just gymnastics, it's like the whole world is kind of opened up. And so I can do anything. So I'm just always thinking of all these things. And it's really amazing to me. And my sister asked me, like, how did you do that? Like how did you stick to one thing over and over again for so many years? And because knowing myself now and knowing how I'm just kind of all over the place, it's really fascinating. But I think you can really get into a place where that's possible. You put in, you set some serious goals, you put in the daily work, create the habits, and just keep the consistency. And it's really mind blowing what we can accomplish. And for me, looking back, I put all these things in place, schedule, training, goals, consistency, coaching, teammates, all these things. I had all the pieces. And so that's how I was able to do it. And now in my life, maybe some of those things are missing, or maybe I'm not fully being consistent, or maybe, my goals aren't clear. And so it's interesting to see the difference, right? And so I think, just to answer your questions, like making sure those pillars are in place, the important pillars of, okay, you want to get here, you're here, what has to happen? What are the pillars? What do you need? What are the tools to get there? And if you have those things in place, I think really like anyone can do anything.
Sure. What do you feel like are the most important pillars to like the average individual wanting to accomplish great things? What are the main pillars that you feel like they need to have in place to get to that greatness?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you need to have some sort of knowledge, someone that's kind of helping you. I could not have done anything in sport without a coach, without my teammates, without people around me that support me. And so I think first of all, you need to surround yourself with supportive people that are cheering you on, pushing you. I have an amazing story yesterday of how powerful support and people pushing you are. So, and I'll go back to your question. I'm sorry, I have to tell this story. So I've never run a full marathon. I've run half a marathon, and my wife has done half a marathon. And part of the Watt group, Ludus weekend that we just came back from, Jimmy Rex, he challenged everybody to have a scary goal for the end of the year. Okay, so he called it a oh shit goal, basically. And I instantly thought of, I'm going to run a marathon. And so I signed up for the Honolulu Marathon December 8th. I called my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to do the 10K? And she's like, sign me up for the full marathon. I'm like, all right. And she's not a runner. Like she works out, but she's just not around. Anyway, so we're both doing that. Yesterday, we both went out to train our day one training together. And I'm a little bit ahead. And every single person that I passed, we live just here around the lake. So we run around the lake. So there's tons of people walking around the lake. Everyone that we passed, I said, hey, my wife's back there. We just signed up for Honolulu Marathon. We've never done this before. She doesn't think she can do it. She needs all the encouragement and like all the motivation and pump up that she can get. I'm like, when she runs by, can you like high five her and just like cheer for her and be like, yeah, Sarah, you can do it. Honolulu, let's go. And she didn't know that I was doing this, and because I was ahead. And so she started running past these people, and they're like, these strangers are like, yeah, Sarah, you can do it, Honolulu. And she's like, what? Like, I'm famous here. What's going on? But she told me something. She's like, you know, after I noticed what was happening, I saw these people, and as I was approaching the people, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that they were going to like cheer for me and pump me up. And that just like sent this like energy of force through my body. And it made me run faster. It made me believe, reaffirm that I can do this. And all those things went through her head just because she knew that there was people there that were going to support her and cheer her on. And that's incredible. And so that is one of the huge pillars, I think, is just surrounding yourself with those people, you know? And so a lot of people, they think they can do it by themselves, and then they just continue and wonder why they are not getting anywhere. We need people. Like, for example, you are amazing, like having me come share this, and we're growing together, you know, and I've read some of your story and the people that have helped you. You have an amazing brother, you said, and so we need people around us, you know. We need their examples and all that stuff. We need consistency is next, you know. You need to be consistent. It's so simple. People make it so complicated. It's not complicated. Do something over time and it will get better. That is literally like a universal law. Do something consistently over time and it will get better. Okay. And so those are the two huge pillars I would say that you need to start with anyways. And there's lots more. Yeah.
Dude, that story moved me. You're awesome.
It was my wife is awesome. She's not a runner, but man, she's awesome. And so that just made me feel so good that you know that I was able to support her in that way. And yeah, it was cool. It was a fun experience there.
And that's the truth, is the slightest emotion can move people. Mm-hmm. The slightest emotion.
Yeah.
Just one thing. Takes one thing. But that's the trick though too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes one thing for the good.
Yeah.
Takes one thing for the not so good. The not so serving things.
Right. Or even because the non-serving things can be so non-serving, so impactful in a negative way, I think we need that much more serving. Like, we know for every negative, we need like 3 positives, something like that, just to bury that negative, you know? We need to, you know, like anyone, if you're coaching or anything like that, you know, you give them like the sandwich, you know, you tell them something good, something they can improve on, and something good again, you know, you kind of wrap it in goodness kind of thing.
But also it goes back to Psychology 101, is that generally speaking, as a human, when we tell ourselves a negative,
mm-hmm.
we feel it deeply, which causes for certain behaviors, which causes for certain results, which then loops right around back to that thought emotion. It's this big cycle.
Yeah.
And that's what causes us to go back down in this deep pit,
mm-hmm.
and then we can't find our way out.
Yeah.
Us as individuals, when we hear, man, I'm pretty cool. No one, maybe not. We discredit it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have that thought, we discredit it before we even felt the emotion.
Yeah.
So now we're not acting on that good behavior. We just discredit it, causing a negative emotion. Mm-hmm. And then you're just creating that loop.
Cycle, yeah.
We as humans need to hack our emotions by allowing ourselves to talk goodness about ourselves, about our life. People say affirmations and declarations are bullshit. They're actually not.
Yeah.
It's that we speak them and then we don't feel them. But when you speak an affirmation, when you speak a declaration, you actually take a moment to breathe and feel it. You're going to change your behavior and you're going to change your result.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes 20 seconds to completely transform your emotion.
Yeah.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
All you have to do is speak it, feel it. So the question comes down to how you feel it. Well, stand up, do some weird poses, move your body, because also motion equals emotion. As you're chanting to yourself goodness.
Yeah, no, it's true. If you ever watched, anyone's ever watched any Tony Robbins sort of thing, he always does that. He always tells people to get up, move your body, because, you know, our brain can't really tell the difference. So it's like we get up, we feel that emotion, and we act as if we are, you know, in the same state that we were when we did something amazing. And we feel that and we remember that, and our body just takes that, and you know, and that's kind of how we're able to feel the same feelings, right? And so, yeah, it's incredible.
So lean into it, like hack your emotions.
Yeah.
So you're right. And here's the truth. We need a supportive group, 100%. That's why groups like We Are the They What are so powerful. You get a group of people that actually aren't just telling you they believe in you, but they genuinely see your full potential.
Yeah.
So when you get around a community, even if it's one person, you need one person.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't need to be 3, 4, 5 people. If the more the merrier, though, let's be real.
Yeah.
But if you can get around people that, even when you're in the moments of like, crap, should I really be doing this?
Yeah.
That they look at you and say, are you kidding me? You're talented.
Yeah.
You love what you're doing. You're really good at it. And you have this big goal so that you can take care of your family and create all this goodness for the world. Like, absolutely, you need to keep going.
Yeah.
Because you can.
Yeah. That reinforcement, that thought. Yeah.
And then just the consistency. It's the truth. If you're switching things every year, you're probably not going to make it very far.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you find that one thing that you actually really love, you're naturally good at, and you can make an impact on this world, if you just stick with it.
Right.
It might take 10 years, but let's be real. You're going to be at 25 tomorrow. If it takes 10 years for me to truly find that quote unquote success on paper, where I have all the health in the world, I have the love of not just my beautiful wife, but a huge community, and it takes time to build that freedom. I'm going to be 35. Why the hell not?
Exactly.
Even if you're 55, you're going to be 65 anyways. You might as well be doing what you want to do.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I think is lost is that people now think that, you know, success is just kind of instant, right? And they want it instantly. So they don't really realize that, you know, things obviously take time. Gary Vee talks about it all the time. He's like, you know, throw that mentality out the window. You have to work consistently over time, you know, just like our grandparents and parents did. And it really is true, you know, as long as you're working on growing something, you know, that really is the important thing. If something's growing, then I think you're, you know, something good that you're doing is growing. I think you're in a good spot, you know, but that's the key, you know. I think true fulfillment is really doing something that, like you said, is like something good that's growing and it's going to make an impact. And yeah, so that's kind of where I was in January. And I'll just kind of share a little bit about this, but January, you know, everyone makes the goals, the resolutions. And this year, it was kind of different for me. It was like, Hugh, this is the year. It's like, it's now or never, right? It's now or never. You're here in the U.S., you know, you immigrated from Canada, and you did that for your children. You did that because here in the U.S., I feel like I can create and provide a better life and future for my children. And so I'm here. It's now or never. So then I joined a bunch of these different groups. You know, I joined first a group, Limitless Society with Keaton, The Muscle. Then that led me to meet Jimmy and join Watt, and just, you know, all these kind of different groups and supportive people around me. And it's just like, you never know, you know, all these doors start opening. You know, it's amazing when you step out of your comfort zone, tell yourself, I'm doing this, I'm getting out there, I'm going to do all the things. and then all these doors just start opening up, and then you're jumping off a cliff in Moab with 50 bros that are like your BFFs all of a sudden. And, you know, it's just like all because you took, you know, one step, you know.
Absolutely. That sounds like an exciting time. I've never jumped off a cliff. I want to go jump off a cliff.
Man, scariest thing I've ever done. And people are like, you're a gymnast. I'm like, this isn't gymnastics. This is not gymnastics. There's mats in gymnastics, okay? I'm going to fall maybe 8 feet, okay? Not 400 feet onto like solid rock here, okay? This is not gymnastics. But yeah, it was the scariest thing I've ever done. But I was so happy I did it. It was just incredible. It's just like this rope swing. I was nervous because I didn't know the dynamic of like the rocks. And I was like, am I going to swing into the rock? How's that work? But when I saw it, it's just, it's so safe. And the crew there, Rope Swing Moab, they're awesome. And then the guy had his daughter there. She's like 7 years old. And he told us that she jumped. And that just changed my mindset. You hear that a 7-year-old girl is jumping. And then I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It's crazy how that literally just changed my mindset. You know, it did. I'm like, oh, okay, I can jump.
Kind of feel like a wimp if you don't
Right.
at that point.
Like, yeah. But no,
Have you ever gone skydiving?
Not yet, no.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, let's go together.
Are you
Let's
down?
go. Yeah, I'm so down. I want to. I know I'll be scared to death of it, but let's go.
All right, next month we'll do it.
Seriously.
And then we can document it with this podcast
Right?
launch.
Yeah. No,
Sold?
I'm down. Let's do
that
it.
would be sweet. Megan's
be
coming
sweet.
with, right?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Scary. The guy I started learning breath work from, Brandon, he does a lot of that skydiving and base jumping and all that stuff. Yeah. So.
But that's a whole nother aspect, right? I mean, when you're willing, like we're talking about pillars here.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about getting a supportive community and then having a goal and staying consistent. Like that's all fine and dandy, right? But let's be real. Like for me, like I already see logically probably my next 10 to 15 moves. Like I'm very specific on the next quarter of my life of what I'm actually going to create.
That's awesome.
But I am also very, not necessarily set in stone, but I do see the next year.
Right. That's so important. That's something that I struggle with is seeing here.
But the truth is, new levels bring new devils, right? You got to learn to punch fear in the face.
Oh yeah, roundhousing.
Like when you start to actually push yourself, like just saying, hey, let's go jump out of a plane and like just trust who we're jumping with, knows what they're doing. That moves you to up level as an individual.
Right.
Like I'm terrified of snakes. It was a goal of mine to hold a snake this year. Yeah. And I did it. Pat on the back because that was a big one. I have no idea.
Like
it was
one of those big
ball
pythons or something, like a yellow.
Yeah.
Where'd you do that?
It was at some aquarium.
Okay.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was scared. But the truth is, I wasn't anticipating doing it that early in this year. Me, my sister, my wife went, and there was just this guy carrying a snake. And we're like, all right. So I'm like, no, not today.
Sign.
Then I was like, okay, you can't be a wimp. And so I did it. But now I'm like not as terrified of snakes.
So what's the scary thing about snakes for you?
I just think that they look scary. Like they genuinely look like the devil.
They look scary. Yeah.
Like they have this weird tongue. Like if you were to draw a devil, like that's one of the animals that you would put with the devil.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Reptiles look evil.
Yeah. What about like a cute baby one?
They're not cute ever.
My little nephew has a little, I think it's like a bullnose snake or something. And it's just a little one he keeps in like his bedroom. And it's like one time it got lost in the house. It got lost. It was gone. And they found it in the yard. Like crazy story, but yeah.
Yeah, that's never happening in my house. Like I'm still like, I'm not as scared of them, but there's definitely zero chance that I want a snake slithering on my leg at night.
I have a pair of boots, like these Mexican, I got them in Mexico, these boots, okay? And they're like snakeskin, and then they have a snake head on the toe, like a legit snake head on the toe. And I think like they're illegal to like cross borders. And so if I've ever crossed borders with it, like I'd be like, yeah, I don't know if they're real. I don't think so. But yeah, those are cool boots. Yeah.
Dude, I want to see those.
I'll bring those next time.
Anyways, point being, punch fear in the face.
Yeah.
Because like the truth is like whatever it is you're being consistent, you know this, every level of gymnastics, it gets harder. Like, it doesn't get easier as time goes on.
Right.
Like, people have that misconception that when I achieve this level, then it's going to be easier. And that goes back to the standpoint of you being an athlete, achieving great success, but you still doing the family vacations.
Mm-hmm.
You still enjoying the relationships and the other aspects of life. Life is a journey. Like, you retiring from, quote unquote, being your personal on the national team, right? Now you transfer to coach. You stopping the performing and competing, right?
Yeah.
That didn't, like, life didn't just stop.
Right.
Like, you kept moving.
Mm-hmm.
So life's a journey.
It felt like it stopped for a couple of years there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. The
Directionless,
transition from athlete to normal person life it's a real tough time for a lot of athletes, you know. Your whole life is doing one thing, you know, and then everyone's supporting you, everyone's helping you. You got all these people, coaches, you got goals, everything. And then that just to be done and gone, it's a real
an identity switch.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Yeah, it was a tough time. I remember I was like I was just all over the place. I accepted a job in Hong Kong to go and take over some sports school there. I like wanted to go, but then my partner at the time was pregnant with our kid, and she's like, I'm not having a baby in Hong Kong. So yeah, that didn't happen, and then just one thing led to another, and then that's kind of how I moved here, though. Started to move here to Utah, though. But
okay, so what were the process like? What did that look like? How did you get through that transitionary period?
I think just being okay with everything that I had done. You know, sometimes when an athlete retires, there's always like those thoughts, like, did I do everything that I needed to do? Did I accomplish what I was supposed to accomplish? Did I push myself? So there's always that, like, do I need to keep going, you know, as an athlete? Like, you see it all the time. Athletes, you know, like, how many times Tom Brady retired and, you know,
And we're back.
and it's just like, there's just always that conversation with yourself. And so I think being okay with what it is. And I think I was, you know, Rio 2016 Olympics, we were trying to qualify Canada, a full team, to the Olympics. And because only the top 12 teams compete in the Olympics. So like when you see the Olympics, it's really only the top 12 countries competing there. And then there's some individuals. But we were trying to qualify Canada, and we went to Rio to compete in like what's called like the pre-Olympics. It's kind of right before the Olympics. It's the last qualifier. And so we were there competing, and Canada did not qualify a full team. And so me as an all-arounder, I was an all-arounder, meaning I did all the events. I qualified Canada's one spot for Rio Olympics. And although it was a great accomplishment to do that, you know, qualify Canada's spot, Gymnastics Canada kind of had the last decision, and they took that spot that I had qualified and they gave it to one of my teammates to compete, because he was like a ring specialist, and I loved this guy. He was like my teammate, my brother, and so I was happy for him in that moment, but also it was kind of like, you know, going forward, there was some thoughts there like, okay, do I need to keep going? Do I need to keep helping Canada? Maybe we qualify for the next ones as a team. So I think just being okay with what you've done, and then having something to move forward to. You know, for me, my partner at the time was pregnant with my first son. And so that was my next thing, right? My next mission was to now become a father. And so we moved here to Utah because all of my family live here, and this is where we would have the most support. And that was kind of my next, I guess that was like my next mission, I guess, is to now transition into the athlete life to now family life, father, husband, all that sort of thing, which was also something that has always been very important for me. You know, I've always wanted to be a dad.
I mean, your stories around how you support your wife and things, that you kill it. There's no doubt, you kill it.
There's definitely been, it's been a struggle. Yeah, it's been a struggle.
And Rightfully so, right? Because as I mentioned, new levels bring new devils. And if there's not new devils in your life, then are we getting better?
Exactly. I like that. I love devils.
But I kind of do too, because without the challenge, life's kind of boring.
Yeah. It's a problem though for me.
Like I've been saying the last couple of days is like, life's really just a big old Monopoly game. You got to have fun with it.
Right.
You know?
You got to take risks.
Yeah.
Right. You got to go back a couple steps. It's totally Monopoly.
Sometimes you go and you do the same thing twice, realizing it was a mistake all along, and then you learn and you don't do it again.
Yeah. Sometimes you leave the game, go outside and do something completely different. You're not even in the game. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing this game. I got to go back. And
sometimes there's turns in the Monopoly game. And you're like, you are way too heated over nothing.
Exactly.
And then you just learn to never play with them again.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. And ultimately, you mentioned that some things have been hard. How is being a father now?
Being a dad is something that I knew I've always wanted to do. And my dad was a great provider. He worked so hard, to put me through gymnastics, pay for everything. But he wasn't one of those dads that showed a lot of affection or showed any emotion, and that was hard for me, I think, But I got over affection, I guess, from my mom, but it was tough for me. I think that's just the kind of like part of that generation though, but he was a supporter and provider, but it also taught me a lot. It taught me that, well, I, as a father, I want to show my kids love and talk to them and teach them. My dad, he didn't really teach me, he didn't teach me things. And so I now as a father, I'm just like, why, like, how could you be a dad and not teach your kids things? And don't get me wrong, like my dad, like he worked so hard for our family, and it was just different, I think, that generation. But now I'm like an over teacher. Every second I get, I'm teaching my kids. Like everything I'm teaching them. Every moment is a teaching moment for myself. And I feel like, for example, I'm cooking breakfast, eggs or whatever, right? And parent, you could be the parent that puts on a show for your kid, let him watch TV, right, on the couch. Or you could be the parent that gets a stool, gives your son an egg or whatever, teaches him to crack it, put it in the thing, mix it up. Like, why wouldn't you do that as a parent? And so that's just kind of how my mind as a father works, is every opportunity I have to teach my kids, I'm doing it. And they're still young, but they'll probably get to an age where they're like, Dad, like, we know, or like, Dad, stop. Like, yes, okay, we've learned this already, or we know, because yeah, I'm just like overkill on teaching them every opportunity that I get.
But you know what's going to happen? You're right. Like at some point they probably will. Yeah. But then they're going to get to be like 21 to 25 and they're going to be like, wow, the amount of information I know because of my dad is so helpful.
I hope so. Sometimes I find myself like talking to my 7-year-old son about like stocks. I'm like, okay, so this stock, like say like McDonald's, son, like you like McDonald's, like, hey, you can buy part of the company, you can buy it, and then it's going to increase in value. And he's like, okay. Or like Pokemon, right? You like Pokemon? Let's find, or Disney, let's buy part of Disney. Like talking to him about stocks. And yeah, it's just every moment is a teaching moment. I love being a dad.
I've had to teach myself that.
Yeah.
Do you know how badass it would be if I was like 18 instead of just barely teaching myself? It would have been to like be taught.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
But to the point, so I'm still thankful I started investing young. Mm-hmm. So the money that I've been investing in for the last years has been compounded, Yeah. Now I'm not wealthy by any means, but I certainly have,
it's all time,
quite a bit of money in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the bank, obviously.
Hope not.
The point being that I'm making is the money that you invest young, as you know, is going to be way more worth it than if you start investing at 30 or 40.
Yeah.
So those are skills that I have no doubt, as long as they implement them, because children have the choice to as well, that they'll look back and they'll be like, my dad killed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like starting a business. Last summer, my son, he made a couple $100. 7 years old. We went to the dollar store here, okay? And you know those Goalie gummies, like the Goalie apple cider vinegar brand gummies? I don't know if you've seen them, but you know, they're like 15, $20 at Walmart, Costco, wherever, right? You know, for a little bottle of like gummies. And so I see these at the dollar store, you know, $1. And I'm like, son, get a cart. We take all of them, all of these gummies. We wiped out the store, and then we started going to other stores. And we got tons of them. And my son's like standing outside the house, bringing them to the farmer's market and just setting up a little and just selling these gummies, $5, $10. He made a few $100s as a 7-year-old. And then all summer long, any place we went, he had his own money. We went here, we went there. He's like, let's see, do I have enough for this? Yeah, I'm going to buy it. He's buying his sister things. Like, and it just took the pressure off of me from like him saying like, Dad, can you buy me this? They're going to a store. Can I buy this? He had his own money, and it was just amazing. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, you know, every parent should be teaching their kids business and starting business. Like, forget getting a job. Don't tell your kids to get a job. That's the worst advice you can give your kids, get a job. Tell them to start a business. You know what I mean? Why not, you know? And so, yeah.
Absolutely. It's the real American dream at the end of the day.
I love it. That's why I'm here. I love America.
Absolutely. Man, I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, yeah.
We probably could go for
And I'm sorry. Sometimes I just ramble and talk too much, but.
No, this was very beneficial. It was beneficial for me as well. And that's why I love doing this most, because selfishly, I learn a lot and I get to meet awesome guys like you.
Yeah, thank you.
So the last couple of questions is, one is, if you have a definition of an authentic life, what would that be?
I love this. And I love that your podcast is about authenticity. Definition of a living an authentic life. Waking up in the morning sincerely grateful to be alive and with a sincere desire to love yourself and spread that love all around you in whatever it is that you're doing. And I think there's so many different little branches that we could talk to or get into from that, but loving yourself and loving yourself so much that you want others to love themselves. And so you help lift those people up and help those people be who they need to be. And so I think it all goes back to love. Love is something that I've been learning a lot about lately. And it is the driving force of everything good, I believe, love.
I love that. That's powerful. Last question is, if you had to leave one thing for the audience today, one last thing, what would that be?
Oh man, just one thing. Well, geez, I think I just said it. We are all so much more capable than we believe ourselves, you know, to be. And so getting surrounded by people that love us and support us, and then we start to also believe it, you know, if we have doubt. And so I just think that we're all capable of so much more, and that so much more can really change the world when we're all doing that so much more and all trying to, you know, you look at relationships, marriages, any type of thing, like, what do they always, what's the thing to say? Like, fix yourself first, become the person that your spouse or partner would want to be with, become that person. And so it all goes back to us becoming the people that we really love, you know. Something that, and I'll end with this, is I made an Instagram post one time about saying, this was like years ago, saying to yourself, like, you have to say, like, I love myself. I love myself. You have to say that, you know. Nobody says, no one talks like that. People say like self-love. You gotta have self-love. Well, what about saying, I love myself? Yeah, I love myself. I love myself. As soon as you say that, people are like, oh, like they kind of feel like a little bit uncomfortable, like, oh, you're kind of conceited or whatever. But no, you have to say those words. I love myself. And in return, I also love you. And that's kind of the, I think we need to make that switch. No more self-love. Let's say I love myself. Let's all go around just saying that and truly believing that and living that. And that will show in our actions and what we do. And so, yeah, it's all love.
Absolutely. I think that is a good place that's powerful. Thank you again for listening to the Journey to Authenticity podcast. If you enjoyed what both Hugh and I had to say today, go ahead and subscribe and leave a review. This helps me to get the most optimal guests to help you transform your life. That in mind, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.